Surrender versus Tyler, coming right up for the second time today out of 3 matches. This is just a lot of Surrender and Tyler we've got cooking on today. It's going to be a Rogue Mirror once again, same decks. Everything's the same as the previous, or first match of the day, should I say, except that the loser of this is done for the season. They are out.
That is correct. It all comes down to this for both of these players, what they've all been fighting for throughout Grandmasters. And, you know, as I've said, it kind of feels like Grandmasters is as good as it gets already, because it's playing week after week against the best players in the world at the absolute peak of competitive Hearthstone for this year. But it gets even better, qualifying through to the global finals later on this year to become our Hearthstone world champion would be a feat that all of these players would aspire to.
Yeah, and also, you know, we can take a look at the deck list as well. We'll get them chucked up whenever. It's Rogue, we've seen it.
It's chucked up.
Yeah, nice, good job. But for me, yeah, in terms of Grandmasters, it's very interesting, isn't it? Because all these players, just for this season, are auto through to Season 2.
Yes.
So next season, these players are back. They do more or less the same thing again in terms of, yes, it's multiple weeks of competition and so on, to get another spot into global finals, to get 2 from each region.
Yeah.
But if you can do it first time, well, second time, I believe there are relegations on the line.
Yeah.
So if you can do it first time, you get a little bit more relaxed for Season 2, and then you can just, you know, work on getting wins. Because most importantly as well, these players are not only playing for a spot in the global finals, which is of course priority number 1, but when they play week in, week out, they earn a prize money for winning matches of Hearthstone every week. So there is still plenty of, you know, what's the word I'm looking for?
Incentive.
Perfect. For playing every single week and performing as well as possible. So even if the players that get a spot this weekend will mean that, well, next season they just do everything they can to try and get wins, as opposed to, you know, maybe they can play a little bit more risky to try and get some more wins, as opposed to saying, what's the safest thing to just give myself, you know, a reasonable outcome. They can just keep focusing for Season 2 and then really work on getting ready for those global finals. But that is another story for another time. For now, we've got Tyler versus Surrender for the second time today. Last match of the day, Rogue Mirror.
And this really has been, when you factor in the last series as well, a tale of 2 Edwins for these players. I think we've seen Edwin on the coin like pretty much every time. It truly
true,
was.
Actually, isn't it?
Yeah.
Is it every time?
It truly is the best of cards, and my God, is it the worst of cards.
I do appreciate, and I'm sure you will too, as a reasonable level memer, the
Apprentice.
The Van Cleef dodging nerfs and rotations and images I've seen are pretty funny.
There are some very good
they've cracked me up a little bit until I go on ladder and get destroyed by like a turn 2 or turn 3 Van Cleef. And then I'm like, yeah, maybe something needs to happen here.
That classic Neville's picture. Dodged another one. Lol.
I miss Neville's.
Yeah. At the same time, I think I'm a little bit too old for him now. I don't think I could handle it.
It was definitely the earlier part of Hearthstone streams. My Hearthstone stream life cycle.
Formative years.
And we are where we are because of Neville's.
Interestingly enough now, for Surrender, he has the ability to go for the exact same curve he went for in Game 1 of the first series of the day. Coin Miscreant, Snip Snap, Shark, Double Lackey, Edwin. He did not win that game when he went for it last time. I will be super curious to see if anything changes for him this time, because I don't think there's anything different between these 2 games so far. Tyler's had the same turn, I think, unless I'm remembering correctly.
So what would you like Surrender to do?
I think I'd like it to still see Coin Miscreant. Pick up Shadow Step does actually change things a little bit. But yeah, I think this from Surrender, you know, it shows belief in his own gameplay, right? Because he's going for the play that he believes to be the best one, and he will not be shaken by
it not working.
It not working the first time. Exactly. It's on average the best thing he can do. And you know, the Shadow Step does shake things up as well, because it means, you know, we could see next turn Step the Miscreant and then just an Edwin, although that doesn't seem particularly powerful.
What about a Snip Snap this turn? And then
it's the exact same as the first time around.
Because then suddenly, though, with the Shadow Step, there can be Witchy Lackey, Shadow Step, Witchy Lackey into Van Cleef. which I think would make a pretty reasonable sized board.
This is like an endgame where we get to see the same situation play out again from a different perspective.
Haven't seen it.
Oh yeah, you haven't seen endgame.
Thanks for.
Oh, sorry.
Hashtag spoiler alert.
Outing you.
Apologies. Should I make a tweet now? In half an hour's time, Derek will spoil a part of Endgame. Do not watch. This Twitch chat catches up.
I'm allowed to as well.
I mean,
that was the lightest of spoilers. So if you haven't seen it, you don't care.
Well, it kind of spoils itself though, because doesn't Strange allude to that anyway?
Well,
because he sits there and sees like tons of outcomes.
Yes, but he doesn't allude that they're going to go back in time.
See, I didn't know that either. Now you've made it worse.
Oh, sorry.
I'm just not going to bother watching it now.
It's not
Derek,
my fault.
Continue with
How
that story.
How can you not have seen it by now? Sorry.
I've been busy. Right?
Yes, and so also similarly to Endgame, Thanos gets killed by a herd of rhino. That also definitely happens, and I'm throwing around smoke so that you'll know.
I've really been sold on this rhino. No, though, Tyler's just in that rough spot in this matchup where you feel like no matter what you do, you're behind. And you're probably going to stay behind. I would like the double Lackey play, the Lackey Shadow Step play, though.
Really?
You make a 5-drop, and you have a reasonably large Van Cleave.
It's true, it's pretty good on this turn. So what's the difference of... you can't clear off the Henge Clan
Go face.
Burglar, though, then. Which is not a huge deal, to be fair. But if we were to see... Like, it's the same situation, right? If we were to see Shark this turn, it's still a very powerful turn next turn with double Lackey, probably with a step thrown in there as well. But what it also means is that if the Edwin comes down and they don't have sap, you win on the spot.
Right.
Whether or not that's worth it.
Wow, Vendetta coming out. I didn't really see that one coming. I feel like for me, because of the... I don't know. Because Tyler's plays quite slow, I feel like you should take advantage of that and not play a turn that's as slow as Shark. So I don't mind this Vendetta. I would put this Vendetta number 2, Shark number 3, and my play number 1 because I said it. But yeah, I feel like there was a chance to get a big Van Cleef, a 5-drop, and the Snip Snap on the board versus 1-4-3. Not as weak to sap, probably based on what the 5-drop would be, I guess.
Yeah.
And you can keep cooking afterwards because you still have another Witchy Lackey, you still have stuff for Togwaggle later on, and you still have a Shark for the Shark into Witchy Lackey potentially the turn after. But anyway, it's not what Surrender did. We can't endgame it and go back in time, spell number 3. And Tyler is going to continue fighting back and evening up the board to some extent.
So many options available now to Surrender. He's seeing
the lines.
14 million and 6 different outcomes available here. And only one wins him the game.
Surrender Strange.
I wonder.
Either way, I think it's hard not to Shadow Step a Lackey and keep hold of it this turn. Are you with me?
I see your
It just
point.
feels so good to be able to just like... The Lackey Evolve is probably just going to be fine this turn. With the way the board, you can get a trade with the Miscreant, evolve it. And then you just have Heist Baron, Togwaggle and a Lackey next turn. It just feels good.
Right, so what Surrender's going for here, it looks like with the Spirit of the Shark, is you take the value trade, obviously, with the Miscreant. You evolve it with the Witchy Lackey, and then probably step it again to set up for a double treasure on Heist Baron next turn.
Get behind that.
In the end, he decides Heist Baron next turn is not the most powerful thing he can do.
The Brotherhood shall prevail.
Okay.
This is so interesting, man. There's so many different ways this could be taken.
So to me, this looks like a turn he could have done a turn earlier. This is roughly what his board would have looked like if he made the turn on the previous one, right?
Would have been a smaller Edwin, right?
Only by 1, though.
And there would have still been a 4-3 in play on the other side.
So many.
Because he wouldn't have played the Vendetta, so there still would have been a
There
Henge Clan Burglar.
would, but you would have had a 5-drop, not a 4-drop.
Yes.
If you replay the Lackey.
That's fair, yeah.
So it's just interesting, right? Don't get me wrong, I'm not saying it's right.
Yeah.
I just think it's very interesting.
The thing is, an average 5-drop, I think, will probably trade against a Henge Clan Burglar and a Dagger, right? Which is puts you in a much worse position than would have happened here. Obviously, you get it a turn earlier, which, of course, is going to be weaker. It's less mana that you're spending on it.
Yeah, just very interesting. I think
Very
like
interesting.
the routes both players have had here. I think Tyler's had a bit more of a simpler game because he's on the back foot and he just has to do the stuff to try and not make him fall too far behind. But Surrender's had so many choices.
Yeah, and I think from Surrender, the cornerstone of his thinking here is whether or not he wants to set up for Heist Baron Togwaggle next turn. And I think not setting up for a 0-mana Lackey into Togwaggle on turn 6 is probably correct, actually. Having looked at it, I like it a bit more because the board's too tumultuous at the moment. There's so much stuff flying around. Tyler's going wide on the board. You're trying to go wide on the board. And I think setting up for a later Togwaggle after you've the dust has settled a little bit to refill that value is very valid.
Also as well, Togwaggle from 9 onwards is great if you have the 0-mana Lackey or Lackey on the board because Wand is playable right there, right then.
Yeah.
So you can have a slow tempo play, which is the Togwaggle, 6-mana 5/5, and then the Recovery, which is 3 cards that cost 0 mana from your deck in the same turn. So it's not like Togwaggle on curve is even powerful. I think it's strong, but it's not the strongest Togwaggle can be.
And I think it's something you often have to, you definitely have to consider it because, you know, the follow-up turn with Wand can be so disgusting. But I agree, you know, Shark into these kind of turns with Lackeys, arguably even just more powerful.
And now there's trades and you can make, Surrender can make the 5-drop a 1-drop, the 4-drop a 5-drop. Let me
make it a 6
Oh, sorry, yeah, with the Shark.
And I
So
like that.
This is nice, yeah. Average 6-drop actually gets a taunt often. Oh, evolved my opponent into a different class. That's good.
They become mage and you're like, wait, what?
Oh, Togwaggle. You're like, wait, is there
Excuse me?
No.
Adjudicator?
Now Tyler has his Tog. Does his Tog ever do enough to catch him up in the game if he has a slow turn this turn?
I see your Tog and raise you a waggle.
You pick.
So many options.
I don't know. These turns are hard, aren't
These
they?
turns are so hard, man.
Because
Rogue's complicated.
Tyler has the Ziliax
Okay, so
stuff.
what's Tyler's win condition at the moment? Does he have to... Is it fight for board immediately or like start going first?
That's what I don't actually know. Because can Tyler afford to take this much damage if he plays Tog this turn?
Right. Which is what leads me to think maybe we will see, okay, something like SI7 Agent on this turn. However, he's thinking, I'm going to tank this damage and then follow up with a powerhouse play with Togwaggle on the following turn. Because I've got to remember, Surrender does not have a treasure in hand despite having a Togwaggle in play. He can get one on this turn should he so desire.
Does use his whole turn though.
It's still pretty good though, right? He gets 2 treasures,
just
2
one
drops.
wand. You just get 1/1 next turn, 6 0-mana cards.
Did you go 1 wand? I guess you probably would
6
actually.
0-mana cards and
That's
then 2
pretty
mana spare.
So many options.
Yeah, I think 1 seems very valid.
But I'm going to raise you another question.
Please do.
You know that waggle pick thing?
Yes.
Hit them in the face with it.
Don't think I like that quite so much. I think that's where things go wrong with like Life Drinker and Ziliax, right? I think, you know, Surrender should probably realize in terms of value, he's so far in the lead.
What are the odds? I'm going to
Okay.
say low.
That if he plays defensive, Surrender is in a good position.
You know the doctor jokes? I like the way the mech is the doctor in the scenario with the Togs and the other minions as the bombs. It's just funny positioning wise. It's like it's a little bit weird, but I just like the way like the worst minion by far is the one in the middle, normally taking Dr. Boom's spot. Now Sap just not going to do too much here. It's all about the wand.
It's
Tyler.
one time.
Did anyone order some value? Got some value here for someone? Anyone?
To quote Harry Potter before his final battle with Voldemort, it's one time.
I wish that was a line. Imagine, especially because the books get progressively darker and more serious as they go on throughout the series. And then at the very
Harry,
end,
what are you doing? Trying a new thing. One-liners. It was classic Harry.
One-liners.
Hey.
Yes.
Oh my god.
Maybe we should do a rewrite.
Harry Potter, but rubbish.
In every way.
Yeah. And Tyler, I think, he's coming to the very correct conclusion here that he does have to wrestle back the board. He has to wrestle back the value in order to be winning this game. Neither player has the liberty to just go all face quite yet.
Yeah, that may change very, 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 very quickly, though, as
Yes.
Surrender can dual wield wands right now. Oh, that's a nice one. Well, let's draw 6 cards. Maybe.
Let's start with
Sometimes he gets the pick this turn instead.
Yeah, let's
What?
see.
Why
what
they
happens.
wanted
Oh
the same
my God,
cards?
that's
What's
insane.
going on? Oh, I love it. Again.
Pew, pew.
It's double one time. It's like, no, we stopped doing that, Surrender. We decided it was bad after the first time. I mean, this is where the game gets even harder, because now there's too much choice. It's like going to an ice cream shop and there's more than like 3 flavors. You just don't even know what to do.
Why can't we just have ice cream, vanilla, and chocolate? What happened? Wait, strawberry, vanilla, and chocolate.
Yeah, ice cream, vanilla, and
ice
chocolate.
cream, ice cream. Mmm.
All I heard was ice cream, vanilla ice, and chocolate.
Why can't I just have vanilla ice?
Is Frostbolt just good as damage right now?
I think picking the cheapest option is very valid there. Like Frostbolt or Moonfire were the only options you'd ever consider there.
Surrender discovered some kind of weird Exodia where it's like, if your hand is full, but costs 0, the game breaks and you win.
Well, I mean, that's kind of what happens because Wand is just so disgustingly powerful.
What did he sap? Okay, spell circle.
This is fine because I mean, this is just spending
Oh
cards.
yeah,
right?
I
Like,
was generally just wondering
throw
what he
stuff. on the
Yeah,
board,
generally just wondering what he aimed at. That's all.
Because Surrender's just getting so far ahead on board at this position. He has so much follow-up as well. That I think, just expending everything he can in one massive push to try and set up potentially lethal next turn is very valid. Because
Rogue doesn't deal with a wide board of multi-health
it does
minions,
not,
right?
Yeah, it's a big weakness.
Outside of Fan of Knives, it doesn't really do anything.
No mechs available for Tyler to magnetize the Ziliax onto, and on its own for 5 mana. I don't know, I'm becoming spoiled here. Like, I'm thinking 5 mana for a Ziliax. That's insane. One of the best cards in the game.
Yeah, too expensive. Need to bring that price right down.
I think it's 0 mana.
I do like the Waggle Pick this turn. Because Waggle Pick, I feel, is the card that can dig you out of situations. Either by doing so much damage, or by generating value that's kind of cheating.
It's the card that does silly things.
Yes.
Like preloading a free Shadow Step. It can obviously be detrimental at times, but it can be the most powerful thing your deck can do at times as well. And it does stop the lethal very handily for Surrender for the moment.
Do it.
Yeah, okay, I take that back. I mean, I guess it's not lethal right now, but it's getting there.
Can he set up lethal? I guess not through Life Drinker. Like, could he just Leroy this turn, swing the weapons, hit him, put him
Very possible.
put him as close as possible, and then just Pyro next turn for lethal?
Yeah, I mean, he needs to be afraid. Like, there's no more sustained healing with the Ziliax being gone, but there's Life Drinkers. And there's the randomly generated card off of Henge Clan Burglar, which is unlikely to be healing. In this case, it is, though. Weapons Project is the ability for Tyler to get that little bit extra out of range. Or he can Shadow Step the Mana Cyclone. Is that even good?
I don't know. I want to find out, though. I want to go on this ride.
It's not bad. He could go Mark of the Wild, step the Cyclone, play it again.
Deadly Poison as well now.
He could go double step. I think he's running out of time. And I guess, stepping the Leroy is probably just better. Blah, blah, blah.
Better starts with the same letter as boring.
It's nice to get a good insight as to how your brain works.
Yes. Welcome to how I cast Hearthstone. This Miscreant is actually... That's a good card on Miscreant, isn't it? Mark of the Wild. Wow. Just a 3/6 taunt that gave you 2 lackeys. Oof.
Strictly better Silverback Patriarch, one might say. And for Tyler now, he obviously is pretty much all out of the board control route unless a miracle occurs. So the plan when that happens as Rogue is generally push everything you can directly to the dome and pray that it gets there. Don't think that's going to work either, though.
Does he have to sap the Miscreant? I think he does, right?
Sap the Miscreant. I mean, he can then
Sap
waggle pick the Miscreant back to his hand.
What about sap the Miscreant,
Choose soon.
Shark, Face, Life Drinker. Oh, Life Drinker first, Face, and then go like that. Try and bounce Life Drinkers here.
I mean, he's going for something similar here, I suppose.
He can sap last if he wants. Oh, okay, so I gotta swing this turn. Maybe wait for next turn.
Yeah,
Is he just dead?
He's just dead.
He's quite dead, isn't he?
Pretty much any damage at all there. Won that one for Surrender.
Yeah,
Waggle
it's gonna
pick,
ease up.
Leroy, Deadly Poison, whatever he wants to go for there. Surrender is able to get the first win on the table. Tyler now 1 game away from going 0-2 in the playoffs of Hearthstone Grandmasters Season 1. Surrender, however, 1 game away from qualifying through to the semi-finals. Comes down to this.
It does, and it's going to be pretty rough for these players as well because Surrender had his chance versus Shaxi, which was, Shaxi was on Mage for the match 2 of the day, and he lost. So both these players are just heavily reliant on these rogue mirrors, not only in their first match of the day, but in the last match of the day. And if, for either player here, if Surrender loses, it could feel bad because he actually beat Tyler initially today. And if Tyler loses, then he's gone 0-2 to Surrender in the same day to lose out at playoffs, which feels just as bad. So a lot on the line, and if I had my way, everyone would be involved in the global finals. We'd go, you know what? Let's just ship out all the players, and we'll have another large tournament on the weekend. But only one of them is going to be able to survive into tomorrow.
That's right, and I think Surrender at the moment is playing deservedly of a qualifier through to the global finals at BlizzCon. I think his rogue play there was extremely difficult. Those turns, like turn 4, turn 5 in particular, where he just played the Vendetta for 4 mana and things like that, were really tough. But I think what it comes down to is great recognition of where he was in the game, because it was clearly a value game, at least in the mid game, or less a face game and a board control. It was like half board control, half value. It's fair to say.
It was toeing the line, wasn't it? It was like not going too
Getting
far
the
one
balance.
way or the other.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And I think he had really good recognition of that, because he could have set up, as we said, for a turn 6 Togwaggle, which would have been reasonable, right? But on the turn he played it, it wouldn't have been that powerful. And I think what he realized is that the way the wind was blowing was that 2 wands was actually just going to be not so powerful, because he needed to go for some kind of a strong swing to get it into his favor. And I think Togwaggle, while the Shark was in play, was exactly that. I think it was pretty inspired, because if it had just been wand on 6, it could have been the case that he falls behind in value to Tyler. And obviously, as soon as you run out of cards to play, you lose board control, you lose the game. Things spiral out of control. So I think Surrender was able to do a fantastic job, looking back on the game in retrospect, of keeping board control, not falling too far behind, but keeping the avenues open for large amounts of value later on as well.
Yeah, and both players are sticking on the primary deck, just to let you guys know, not too much of a surprise. But yeah, I agree, and I think it's also maybe undervalued a little bit, but maybe understood more by, say, the average Hearthstone player instead of the pro Hearthstone player.
Yeah.
But not falling for the plays that on average are good, right? Like Tog on curve or Tog even faster is a good play in the right situation. But in general, if you did that every game, you probably come out on top overall.
Yeah.
But the second you do that in a game like this, it could lose you the game. And I think just keeping a level head and not tripping over and going for those like flashy, on paper good plays, it's actually quite hard to do, I think, and something that I think a lot of these players excel at.
Speaking of the kind of dichotomy between flashy powerhouse plays and just decent curves, Tyler has that exact quandary presented to him right here. We could see, I would argue, a full mull. Neither of these cards are Edwin or the Evil Miscreant, which are the cards you're absolutely looking for. At the same time, 2-drop, 3-drop, 4-drop. Shadow Step is good with all of these cards as well. It's a reasonable curve.
You know, the deck is very interesting when you can either full mulligan or full keep.
Yeah.
And it's like, I'll say
debatable.
Correct. Yeah, you know what I mean? Like both and neither strictly good or strictly bad.
Yeah.
And that is just a weird Hearthstone deck. Probably a powerful Hearthstone deck.
Yeah.
And definitely an interesting one. Because the game just also plays out differently if you keep this hand versus throw it away.
Yeah.
And not just because you have different cards, but the style of the game can often be just so different. And it looks like Tyler went for the I want to play things on curve plan.
Very valid, you know, in the Rogue matchup, it often feels like more of a slower value matchup, a little bit more like the sort of last game, or at least board fighting for board control. But it can often just feel like play your stuff on curve, hit them, and go for a more aggro game plan.
Well, well, well.
Yeah. This is pretty good for Tyler.
Look at Surrender's face. It's like...
this never ends well.
No.
Because
Zap, 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 zap.
Probably wouldn't even do that for miscreant, right? Like, if Tyler had miscreant, he would have just coined it out. This is pretty much always an headwind you're expecting to see here. Oh, wow. We could see Tyler go all the way in here.
What, coin shark?
Well, I mean...
you want to backstab the... I was wondering whether you go coin shark and then go really deep next turn. Because that Edwin becomes unkillable. Like, actually just unkillable. It has to be sapped or you win the game. Whereas... how big would this one get if he went...
Well, he could go Witchy Lackey,
could go to 8.
Cable Rat Lackey, backstab one of his minions, and then...
so he could go past 8,
go
right?
8-8, yeah.
If you can go past 8, then it's worth doing now. 3-3, it's not so bad stats.
Yeah, you feel for Surrender. It kind of feels like he's just been got.
I don't know, because it only went to 8. I think I would have gone with the shark.
Oh, what kills it off at 8 though? Like double Vendetta? Are you playing around exactly Hench Clan Burglar plus 2 Vendettas? Because if he doesn't have exactly that combination of cards, backstab here is great. Or it will be good at some future point. Like it can kill off a Ziliax, it can do all kinds of stuff. Earthshock's pretty sweet though.
Oh.
Rogue giveth and rogue taketh away.
Oh my.
I mean, it's still a turn off from being playable, so Surrender's going to have to take a beating in the meanwhile.
It is, but any card that meant Surrender did just lose is a fantastic card for Surrender right now. Because if he did not get something that turn, or drew exactly Sap next turn, I guess, then there will be problems. He does have Ziliax and Backstab next turn. Just something to bear in mind. So his ability to stabilize is pretty solid right now. He obviously takes a lot of damage.
Second backstab there is kind of interesting. It plays around backstab from Tyler's side of the board because Tyler is quite obviously going to want to play some kind of a 4 or 3 cost minion rather than a just dagger and backstab to take it out. So I guess I actually like it.
Yeah, I think I like it because you also, well, you're not backstabbing the Van Cleef.
Right, exactly,
so
yeah, I like this.
May as well kill another minion.
So many options.
Options for Tyler: Redemption, Might, and Zap.
Zap can just take this out right now with backstab Zap.
Yeah. I don't see why not.
I like it, yeah. That's the scariest minion he can face right now. Because obviously, Surrender knows there's the Earthshock. From where Tyler's sat, I think he knows that Surrender is setting up for trade plus Ziliax and attack, or Vendetta Eviscerate. Exactly, something like that.
Ooh. Nice.
Yeah, you'll love to see that.
So now, I guess the question is, does Surrender just play both? Gonna Earthshock, trade, Eviscerate, and just say, my turn is slow, but it is good? Or can he Earthshock, trade, and then play his Hench Clan and Burglar? Not necessarily in that order, of course. Because
it's kind of close.
He takes more damage, guaranteed, if he doesn't Evis.
But he has a lot of healing. I think I actually preferred us playing out the Hench Clan Burglar. Like he'd like to go for the Ziliax to take out the Hench Clan Burglar, but I think the majority of the minions that Tyler can play in the next few turns are weak to Ziliax anyway.
In Rogue,
yes,
almost every minion.
It's all 3 health, And so I think because Surrender has a very reasonable amount of healing, taking the extra 4 for a turn to get the Hench Clan Burglar in play is, I think, worth it.
I guess he's going to Evis then, because he would have burglared first. Job done. He has to re-dagger this way?
Yeah. And it means that the Hench Clan Burglar can't just be traded off into, so if Tyler has a weak turn here, there's a chance that this Burglar could just stick.
Well, he kind of does.
Wow. Togwaggle is a very, very strong pickup. What do you know?
It is, but it's a little bit slow. Just a little bit.
A little bit, yeah.
Many options.
Gonna preload the shark and pass. Ooh, that's a good pickup. Means you can just play Hench Clan Cable, right? Or vice versa.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
Keep the Shadow Step for Ziliax or the Life Drinker, whatever's more relevant
Yeah,
at the time,
probably the
and
Life
generate some good value. He plays 2 cards to make 2 cards.
So
Like,
Yeah.
that's,
many
sign me up for that.
options.
I guess you can see what he gets off the Cable Rat and the Henchclan Burglar. Like, if he gets absolute nothing, then he can step on either of them, I guess, but he probably wouldn't want to do that.
Often doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Ooh. Wing Blast?
Probably Wing Blast.
I love me some Rebuke, but I think Wing Blast is just better most of the
Yeah,
time.
I think Rogue is a little bit too light on spells at the moment. Like, I'm thinking back to the old Miracle Rogue days where Rebuke would just be nuts against the Rogue. Gesundheit.
So many.
Beacon Lightning could take out a board full of lackeys as well, but Surrender's already seen a fair bit of that. Wing Blast, I think, is just the highest combo card.
And just as much with boards full of lackeys, it's very easy to trade minions off to proc Good Blast.
Right, Tyler's got the shark in play. How does he capitalize on that? Forest Sage, probably too slow. Like, it's obviously a tremendous amount of value, but the things he can do for 8 mana and then 8 mana again, probably just better than Forest Sage.
Another tough one.
This is another tough one. Probably Mortal Strike, yeah, just to go face. It can even get over the top of Ziliaxes or something like that. But, you know, if you had a Waggle pick, upgrade to nuts on Waggle pick. Or even just a dagger. It's not bad.
It's super
cheap.
weird this turn for Tyler, isn't it? Because he probably wouldn't mind a 6-drop, but he just can't.
Oh, no, yeah, he has to say that.
Too soon.
It's going to be a great turn for Surrender, though, being able to, wow, take out the Spirit of the Shark, Wing Blast away the Henchclan Burglar, and then just go super wide on board. We could just see Miscreant, step it, play it again, a bunch of lackeys. This is the dream.
Yeah, it seems pretty solid as, from where I'm sitting.
So many.
And this could be the swing that Surrender needs. Yes, Tyler's got a lot of damage, but if Surrender has the board...
He gets the 1/2 drop that does literally nothing. it purely takes up board space. That is
better
the
than
worst
Doomsayer.
outcome.
Can be targeted with Evolve too.
Yes, it's better than Doomsayer, just about. Yeah, unfortunately, your hero power cannot target adjacent minions as Rogue.
Just give you hero power sweeping strikes. Oh.
Yeah, that'd be pretty sick.
Too soon.
How good, right, would it be if your hero power... So, okay, your weapon had sweeping strikes, but you took the damage from each minion you hit. Would that be good?
Probably not. Maybe. I'm terrible at evaluating cards.
Now, though, Surrender's kind of closed the gap in terms of health difference with the help of Ziliax. We can see that there's Life Drink, a Shadow Step, so Tyler even piecing together this damage in from hand burst damage.
Yeah.
It's going to be at least reasonably negated by Surrender's options. Surrender doesn't even have to Life Drink a Shadow Step, but if Surrender gets like a whiff of Tyler going aggro, he can just go, okay, Life Drinker, Shadow Step, Life Drinker, and that's already negates like what 1.5 damage cards from Tyler. It's a pretty big deal.
Yeah, it is. This play from Surrender is still kind of interesting. Like, holding on to the Wing Blast is very valid. It's kind of reminiscent of playing against Mage, where you hold on to the Vendettas specifically to deal with Giants, because that can be very, very important. So, like, holding on to Wing Blast to deal with Heist Baron Togwaggle, for example, or a big minion off of Crown, maybe, later on, has its merits.
I like this plan.
But, no, please. But I think the wing blast into Miscreant there had its merits just to go super wide on board.
It did. Oh, wow. Okay. So either way, excuse me as I need to clear my throat. But either way, I think we're going to see the Miscreant come down this turn, and those lackeys can open up a lot of options. Witchy lackey not so bad to get some work out of this. 0-3, but Surrender missed, and instead got damage and the Faceless, which, you know, I say Surrender missed.
It's
it really
not
a
that
miss?
bad. Yeah,
is it really a miss if you get a good card?
Pretty good. The real decision point from now is, can I afford to not Shadow Step this Life Drinker? Because his hand is starting to run dry, and stepping this Miscreant would be so fantastic to give him the extra juice he needs to get over the finish line. So he needs to make... what kind of a read can he make on Tyler's hand? Is it an all-out aggressive hand that has to go face, and therefore stepping the Life Drinker is more important? Or is it a value hand, in which case he needs to step the Miscreant in order to try and get more value to keep up? Or is it both?
I actually kind of like this turn. I'm not sure if this was the 100% intent, but by playing both and Shadow Stepping non, he kind of lets Tyler decide, right? Because Tyler probably doesn't clear this board.
I think that's
And
fair.
almost anything that Tyler doesn't clear, you'd say it's likely-ish that either the Miscreant or the Life Drinker lives. And depending on how Tyler plays this turn, Surrender can adapt with Shadow Step.
And I think the main thing as well is that Surrender, whether or not he actually knows that the High Sparrow and Togwaggle is in hand, I think it's definitely something he's factoring in, which is saying my best counter to it is actually not keeping up on value, is putting such an aggressive board in play that my opponent does not have time to play it.
Rogue
which I think is
spending
very
6
wise.
mana is insane.
Right, exactly.
To the Rogue.
Yes,
you
just
have to
for
be in a very
5/5.
good spot to spend 6 mana on a 5/5. But next turn, or maybe even the turn after, because Tyler can't Shadow Step the Lackey. I think Tyler probably has to go for turn 10. Togwaggle, if that's what he wants to do. And look at this.
I've got to be honest, I was kind of expecting Shark Life Drinker on this turn. It obviously doesn't clear off as much as of the board, but it sets up for Witchy Lackey into High Sparrow and Togwaggle to get a 6-drop and only 1 treasure, but that's not that bad, I don't think.
If Surrender just plays 3 Snip Snaps,
that's pretty nuts.
Is that just good? Like, especially separately, of course, as well. I would play them as 2 3s. Like, is that just insane?
Pretty good to me.
Super Vendor not really going to get much work done in this deck.
Yeah.
But still 1/4, not a bad shape.
It's alright. I think he wants something a little bit more front-loaded on the damage there to just keep it going. Like 2 2-drops being summoned and only 1 attack across both is pretty miserable. Because just imagine if this Spirit of the Dragonhawk had been attacking turn after turn.
Yeah,
like that's
probably
6 extra
10
damage.
or so,
Right,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
That could have been crazy.
Choose soon.
That's why I'm surprised he didn't just go snip, snip, snip.
Me too.
Because that's just 3
Even like
2 3s that death rattle into 6 1/1s. Like, you just kill Tyler. Like, what does Tyler even do at that point?
yeah, I'm
It's
a
just
little
too much
surprised
stuff.
as well. I
Still
think
though.
this is still good.
Yep, Surrender bringing Tyler down to 11. Tyler does have the waggle pick. But does he have the time? So now does he, like... Wait. Does he have to play Life Drunk and Shark in a weird order here?
We could just go for the 50-50 of bouncing
Yeah, I
back
guess so. Yeah,
Life
that's
Drinker,
fine.
right? And even if he bounces back a 2-mana Shark, that's not that bad.
Yeah.
And the benefit is, there's not actually, and I'm putting a lot of emphasis on it here, that much damage on board.
Yeah.
It's not dead on the spot if you don't clear it.
Also, we can't replay the Life Drink even if he bounces this turn.
Whoa.
17, saps. Ooh, a swing and a miss for Surrender.
Oh wait, he can step one of the Snip Snaps and gain 8 extra damage on this turn. How much damage does he have? He's got 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. That's lethal.
9 plus 8 does add up to 17 as far as I'm concerned. Surrender, I think, is doing his counting movements.
He's doing the same thing.
Yeah, because he can hit with everything.
Yes.
Sorry, hit with everything but one
Apart
snip
from one of the
snap.
Snip Snaps.
Yeah, he sees it.
Hey!
Surrender is not one to be fooled and miss lethal that often, that I've seen at least.
Devastating
He has got
for
it.
Tyler.
Wow, what an end to the game. It seemed like there was still a lot to play for. Look at Surrender's
Yep.
health. He's only on 13.
Tyler was this close to getting the lethal there at that point.
Surrender with this win. is going to take himself through to the semi-finals tomorrow, and that is going to be stacked.
That is exactly right. We have our top 4 now for the Asia Pacific semi-finals from our Group A. We have Staz and Alu team, our group leader, just managing to sneak in. And then from Group B, we have Shaxi sailing through very, very cleanly with his win against Surrender. And now Surrender, the all-star Hearthstone player from Korea, cementing his place in the semi-finals with a very well-played game of Rogue.
Yeah, real shame to see Dawn and Tyler go
Big
on the
time.
first 2 days of this weekend. But, you know, someone has to. It's a shame to see all the other Grandmasters not be here as well, but that's just the way it happens. And then tomorrow, it's going to be even more brutal. Thunderdome style, 4 players will enter, 1 player leaves with a spot at Global Finals from Asia Pacific. So 4 fantastic Hearthstone players, and we're going to be crowning 1 tomorrow that's going to be effectively the Asia Pacific winner of Season 1. I don't know what it's called technically, I probably should have checked, but either way, they get a spot in the Global Finals, which means they're a winner in their book and a winner in our book as well.
Yeah, I think the Season 1 champion of the Asia Pacific Grandmasters is a good title.
I like Season 1 winner of stuff. But,
That works too.
We could go for that. I do believe we are trying to get hold of Surrender for an interview. We're trying to set up as well, just on a few words. We didn't get to catch anyone a little bit. I didn't get to catch Surrender or Tyler, of course, so far today. So we're going to do our best. But what a crazy couple of days. And I feel like I thought submitting and playing against just 2 opponents every week over this many weeks was a brutal format in terms of just being a player in that format. This feels even more brutal.
This is so tense.
You rock up, you could just have 2 matches and boom, there's your season. Not the season wasted, because like I said, there's prize money on the line for all the players' wins and everything, and the players are going to go through to Season 2 anyway, but so much work, you got this far, and there's still time for many of these players to fall over at the last hurdle.
That's right, and you've got to remember, these players are not here to do reasonably well. These are competitors at their heart. They want to win. It's not about the money for these players, it's about being the best at something.
Yeah, and I believe we have one of the best ready now, so Surrender is here. Can you hear us?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay,
Hey.
great. So first off, congratulations. I just want to ask just straight away, how are you feeling with today's matches? Because you played the most out of everyone today, and it felt like some of the matches were very, very tough for you.
I feel like I feel kind of bad for Tyler because he has always been my practice partner in group stage, and we made a promise, like let's not lose to Shaxi and let's advance. Yeah, let's advance to top 4. Yeah, something like that.
Yeah,
So I'm kind of sorry to Tyler.
yeah, it was unfortunate, but that's just what's going to happen, unfortunately. How are you feeling now that you know you're through to tomorrow? How are you feeling about the rest of the field and your chances at actually getting through tomorrow?
Good thing is I will be playing against Stats, right?
Yes,
And
I
I
believe
think
so.
it's a really good matchup for me. Yeah, so I feel like I can make it tomorrow.
Nice. And I just want to ask as well, a lot earlier in the season, I interviewed you and you said you weren't feeling like you were putting a lot into Hearthstone at the time and you were going to work a lot harder. Do you feel a lot better now that your results went really well for the second half of the season and you got into this far into playoffs?
Yeah, I'm happy with my performance right now, and I think RNG is also helping me.
I mean,
right now.
that's always pretty good, isn't it?
Yeah, it appears that way with the Rogue you've been playing. So I guess I want to give you the opportunity now to just talk about any plays that you thought were particularly difficult or interesting in your matches, because for us there were a lot of very, very difficult decisions, especially with how you sequence Spirit of the Shark and Miscreant and Edwin. Like, you had a couple of very difficult games.
Yeah, I think Rogue Mirror is one of the hardest matchup to practice, and I still don't know how to play it. It's so difficult.
Neither do we.
Yeah, I was going to say, well, if you don't know Surrender, we definitely don't know, so we just have to try and keep up the best we can. But we will let you go. Congratulations once again, and we will see you tomorrow.
Thank you. See you
Thank
tomorrow.
you. Cheers, mate. All right, well...
He's done it.
He's done it, yeah. And then I always, anyone who's been following Hearthstone and watched any cast I've ever done that's to do with Surrender,
You're a fan.
I'm a huge fan of Surrender.
Yeah.
I think he's an amazing Hearthstone player and has been for a long time, so I'm always happy to see him go through. But again, commiserations to Tyler. They tried to say, look, we'll both beat Shaxi,
Yeah.
both go through. They were practice partners as well. But, you know, sometimes, well, a lot of the time these things happen. But let's check out the bracket and see how everything has shaken out. So we did start off the day with Surrender versus Tyler. And Surrender took the win over Tyler and then had to play Shaxi, who got the bye in that group by being the seed #1 in his division for the rest of Grandmasters. Shaxi kind of just moonwalked his way through the match, which is a little bit, I would say, it looked a lot easier than the average matchup of that one goes, Mage versus Rogue.
It did indeed. He got pretty fortunate there, being able to keep up on board early on and go for a Luna's Pocket Galaxy on a relatively empty board, which was a direct result of his play. Tempoing out the Khadgar on 2 is a
really
brave
good,
play to say the least, but you can see his win was a direct result of his decision to go for that. It was nice to see such a clear cause and effect of his play.
Yep, and then because this is a double elimination bracket, effectively, then Surrender had to play Tyler again, which is what we just saw. And Surrender did take the win over Tyler in some very close Rogue Mirror matchups. But that is just 3 matches we have today. It's 3 matches every day this weekend for playoffs, so a little bit more bite-sized Hearthstone for you guys watching at home. But we can check out the schedule for our final day, which is going to be tomorrow. We do have, as the seedings kind of flip round again. So we have Surrender versus Staz, and then Alutimu versus Shaxi as the 2 semi-finals, and then we will of course have the final to decide the player who goes through. Derek, I'm going to ask you right now, who are you feeling?
I think it's a tough one.
It's tough, right?
I think I would have to give the edge to Surrender at the moment, because I feel like he's got himself a very strong matchup in Game 1 with the Rogue up against the Hunter from Staz, with, again, all the classes being Staz on the Hunter, Surrender on the Rogue, and the other 2, Shaxi and Alatem, on the Mages. Surrender's got a good matchup, #1, and he's guaranteed a Mage if he wins, so I think he's in with a decent spot round 2. However, Staz on the other side, if he can overcome the Rogue, which he has been doing fairly consistently in Grandmasters so far with his Hunter, I think he is in a brilliant spot to be taking down those Mages. He's just been crushing them.
Yeah, I mean, it really is. It's going to sound so silly, but because it's stacked. Most things I say are silly, so that's fine. I just keep it the same. But I will say Shaxi has just been playing very, very well.
Yeah.
And he plays a little bit strange to me as well, but it works. So I think no matter what, you can't count Shaxi out because he dominated Division B. He did well today, just breezed through the only match he needed to win. So I think it's just all up in the air. So I'm greatly looking forward to tomorrow, and you guys should too. We're going to be back same time, same place. And by the end of the day, we will find out who is booking their spot from Season 1 into the Global Finals later this year. But for now, from Derek and myself, have a good day, morning or night, depending on where you are. Catch up on some Europe and Americas that's going to follow us, and we'll see you tomorrow.